Greetings, and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. It's been a while since we've updated the tier list, so let's go do that. This is the Encyclopedia tier list up to July 2025, but we are not including the July Champions, the Maker, and the High Evolutionary. Haven't really had a chance to get my hands on them as of the recording of this video, and I don't want to be out there giving false information. They both look very, very good, some defensive potential as well, but they're not included here. Before we go through a champion by champion breakdown of all the new champions, all the promotions, demotions and movements, 2 quick points. Firstly, for those of you that have never seen this tier list before, welcome, but it might be a tad more confusing than other ones. This tier list aims to recognise champions that are particularly good, but only sometimes. So the further up a champion is on the tier list, the better they are, but the further right a champion is, the more often they can be that good. For example, champions in the top right are good in many, many places and are considered some of the meta champions of the game. However, champions in the top left are phenomenal, but only sometimes. The perfect example of this is Awakened Ronan right up in the top corner at 110. A very, very powerful champion, but only when the opponent has lots of buffs, you've got him awakened and you can basically just stunlock them. In a vanilla matchup, Ronan is borderline useless. So, he can occasionally be very, very powerful, hence he's in the top left. Champions in the bottom right are therefore rubbish everywhere. Any champion that's in the sort of 6 or 7 good bracket, so 6 or 7 up, will make up a lot of people's rosters. These are champions that you can use to get through a lot of content, and they will serve you well. Champions that get into the 8 bracket are phenomenal champions that will be the powerhouses, the ones you should prioritise, depending on what you need. But they will really, really do you well if you rank up these champions. Champions that make it into a 9 are basically some of the best champions of their respective classes, and to get into 10, you need to be there basically by invite only. Very few champions make it into 10 out of 10 good, and they are usually there for some specific reason. I will also highlight Quake, Magic, and Labyrinth Ultron that are in their own respective boxes, but they are 5-star locked, so I've stuck them in the bottom right. Each box is ordered alphabetically. There is no other comparison within each box. Alphabet only. The second point is slightly more meta, which, looking at the script for this video, it's gonna be a long one, and YouTube does not take kindly to very long videos that people watch 30 seconds of. You are, of course, more than welcome to screenshot this and move on, but if you wouldn't mind leaving the video running whilst you have a shower, eat your dinner, go to bed, I don't mind. That would be very much appreciated. Right, on to the breakdowns. There are 43 champions I want to go over in this video. Many of them are new, many of them have been promoted, and there are some demotions and movement as well. Promotions is sort of up or to the right, demotions are down and to the left, and then movement is basically anything on the diagonal, where the champion is still about as good as they were previously ranked, but there are a few situations perhaps that have caused them to move. When talking about each section, champions will be simply gone through alphabetically, which means we'll be starting off with the brand new Armin Zola. Here he is in 7-6. Zola is a very solid champion, double immunities and some very, very good damage over time. He is obviously designed as a defender and is fulfilling his role in that well, but this is an offense only tier list. We are not including any defensive potential. Otherwise, that would be rather complicated. Zola's damage is very, very, very good, particularly if you are running the Collar Tech Mastery, and that is very helpful for how he works, but he's down in 7 peak because you really need the right setup. If you can drop your special 1 after they've thrown theirs and just start spamming heavies in the corner, and his heavy range is good but not phenomenal, then you can really stack up those debuffs. You can then drop your special 2, get some more burst damage if you're awakened, and melt a lot of things. But getting that setup is tricky. If you can't debuff the opponent, then you're going to struggle. If you can't heavy the opponent, you're going to struggle even more. Again, Collar Tech, the Mastery, makes Zola a different champion, but I think 7-6 is a good starting point for him right now. Up next, we have Bastion in 9-8, and yes, I do think he is that good. Bastion has effective double immunities that he actually regenerates from. He has amazing damage that no one's immune to. He counters pretty much everything in the modern meta. I've got a couple of videos on Bastion if you want to check him out. He is phenomenal for so many defenders. I've been taking him into Alliance War, and he has been taking everything from, Dust, Hazard Shift, Onslaught. He's amazing for Bullseye. He's brilliant for as well. Bastion is arguably definitely top 5, arguably top 3 techs at the moment. That is how strong I think he is. He's come into the game, has really hit the ground running, and is doing a very, very good job. You can take him into a Bullseye fight and gain health. Bullseye will never evade if you do what you do right. Special 2, couple of special 1s, and he will do you very, very, very well. He has been used, I've seen content all the way from Battlegrounds into Necropolis, so he can cover the entire spectrum of health pools in the game. No one's immune or can even resist his damage. Fantastic champion. The control he gets from when he gets his infection going, the power control, that is also very, very good. I don't have enough praise to sing about Bastion. He is not the upper echelon of champions, in the sort of 9 good category, but he is extremely powerful as a general tech option. 9-8. Dark Phoenix comes in at 8-6, and a lot like Arnhem Zola, she is very obviously designed as a defender, and she is very good at it. Without the right counter, you are going to struggle, but again, this is not a defensive tier list. So, what can she do on offense? Well, actually, she has got some very solid damage over time. It's slower to build up than someone like Zola, but you can apply Nova Flames on your special 1, special 2, spam some special 1s, drop some special 2s, and then you get some big Nova Flames coming from your special 3 and more special 2s. And really, she gets a lot of her damage from stacking up those Nova Flames. And anyone that comes in with primarily Nova Flame based damage is going to do quite well, because there's about 3 champions in the game that can deal with it. Iceman, herself, Human Torch. I don't even think Human Torch is Nova Flame immune. It is an extremely rare immunity. And she's just generally pretty good. Her utility is a little bit lacking, but overall, a solid whale-y, but, a solid whale-based cosmic character. Up next, we have Deathless She-Hulk in 9-7. And yes, it has been so long since we've updated this tier list that we need to put Deathless She-Hulk on here. This is a really good and solid upgrade to the old She-Hulk character. The damage now comes in burst, which is a little more useful. She's got some modern utility coming from her special 1, special 2. She can throw special 3s, and now that has a debilitate on it rather than the stun. The stun on She-Hulk special 3 was one of the weirdest design decisions I've ever seen, because you want the opponent to throw specials to keep your Furies going. So with old She-Hulk, if you got pushed a special 3, you kind of couldn't throw specials anymore, because they would get stunned and you might not be able to refresh your Furies. Also, old She-Hulk's Awakened ability was a bit weird, particularly around Mystics, so modern She-Hulk, or Deathless She-Hulk, has done away with that. A phenomenal champion, very good for questing, difficult to get your hands on now if you don't already have her, but a very, very good updated character. 9-7. The king of Deathless champions himself, Deathless Thanos, comes in at 9-9, and wow, what a champion. I have only just got my hands on him myself, and honestly, if you don't have him now, or have most of the Deathless champions minus a piece or 2, getting him is going to be extremely difficult, and I do hope that Kabam brings in more ways of getting him, because this guy is a powerhouse. His damage is mental. He is insanely tanky, he has regen, he shreds off opponents' armors, he has some of the easiest access to intercepts in the entire game, with his, unstoppable intercept mechanic. He is also annoying on defense, though we're not including that here. He's got corrosion damage, which is unique to him, and no one else can, even come close to resisting, let alone inflicting. Massive base damage hit. You can easily get sort of 30, 35, 40k mediums out of the rank 3. You can gain massive sort of 100k crits on the special 2, or permanent damage over time on the special 3. Buffs, debuffs, defender, everything. If you need a champion, Deathless Thanos is absolutely phenomenal. however very difficult to get your hands on. But if you do have him, 9-9. Up next in 7-5 we have New Falcon. New Falcon is fine. He is not as bad as a lot of people say he is. His utility is actually pretty strong. He's got access to many useful debuffs, including a Debilitate, which is useful for taking on everyone's favourite champion, Enchantress. But the way his kit is put together is just a bit strange. Once you enter sort of your purple mode, which is your damage mode, you can't reapply some of your damaging debuffs. And it's just little things like that. I think with a little tune-up, he would actually become a very solid champion. Make the debuffs a little bit longer, let you apply a few more, ump up their potency a little bit, and increase the burst damage from the traumas, and suddenly you have a champion with decent utility, decent damage, and whilst he is not the most phenomenal champion to come out this year, he does a pretty good job, and sometimes that's what you need. Every now and again, as well, you need champions that aren't quite as good as other ones to make the other ones look good. Falcon suits that role pretty well. To be honest, I have no confirmation on this at all, but I imagine Kabam was designing an Enchantress counter, because Enchantress is very annoying. They designed Falcon, and they were also probably designing Spider-Woman, who we'll come onto it a bit, at the same time, and she's also a very good Enchantress counter. She's a better Enchantress counter in my mind. So, maybe there was a bit of conflict internally. I don't know that at all, just speculation. But 7-5 for New Falcon. At 7-6, we have Gentle. Gentle is a pretty good champion, a very good bullseye counter, which is what it looks like he was designed for, and he's got his big problem though, which is basically he comes with built-in recoil, and recoil is the worst part of the recoil masteries. Now, if you invest everything you have into Gentle and you take him to SIG 200, you learn how to play him, and you throw those specials whilst you're unstoppable, he will take essentially no recoil damage, both from himself and the mastery. So you can actually run 3 out of 3 recoil, which is something no one should be doing, and Gentle will mitigate it. And that is surprisingly powerful, but getting there is very annoying. He has very solid damage when you get him going, and if you don't want to take the recoil damage, you can sacrifice some of your damage, get a nice rupture going, and you won't take the recoil damage, taking your damage down a bit. He's fine. Gentle is fine. He's got good damage, decent utility, and has a nice place in the contest. If you get him, learn him, he will do you well, but he's not the most powerful champion we've had recently. 7-6. Coming in at 8-6, we have the first idle champion, Isophene. To me, Isophene is a really interesting champion because she's the first champion in the game, though we will be covering a second idle champion in a moment, to have the fractured power bar, allowing her to throw any special attack as long as she's got enough power. So you can be at 2.5 bars of power and still throw the special one. This is super cool, and something that I really hope they introduce into more champions, though I imagine for now it'll only be for the idle champions. We've got Lumitrix and then the ones coming after that. We'll talk about Lumitrix in a second. The problem with Isophene is that she again falls into that category of fine. Her damage, at least for me, isn't quite in the place I'd like it to be. Just make those energy vulnerabilities a little bit more potent, make her nullify more reliable. A 40% nullify chance is not quite high enough for you to keep up with lots of buffs on the opponent. And one thing I still don't understand is that she is designed, quite clearly in my eyes, to sort of not be a direct counter, but a solid counter to Serpent. Now, Serpent, we know, has a lot of annoying power gain, but Isophene's Wither, which is what's used to reduce power gain, is on her special 2, which is what you use to cash out your damage. You throw a bunch of special 1s, and then the special 2, for a, massively increased damage. But why would you put the Wither there? In my opinion, the Wither should automatically appear when you have, 2 or 6 energy vulnerabilities, because you can apply them in pairs, and so it just hangs around whilst you're building your damage. This would make her a much more usable Serpent counter in my eyes, but if you get yourself an Isophene, and a lot of people were given a 7-star Isophene for free, she will take you a long way and handle decent cosmic threats. A bit more damage would make her nicer in my eyes, but that's just me. 8-6. Coming in at 7-8, we have Jean Grey. Like Isophene, Jean Grey for me is a very interesting champion because she has the ability to mess with her own power bar. Isophine has the fractured power bar, but Jean can reduce the cost of how much power she needs in order to throw a special, meaning you can sort of have 2/3 of 1 bar of power and still throw the special 1. This is not the same as champion like Professor X that can reduce how much it costs to throw them. She can throw it with less. And that's really cool as well. I'd like to see that on more champions. That's a really fun mechanic, particularly if they took it to a bit more of an extreme. And for some champion, a bit like Dust, throwing a special would eventually cost no power. You know, obviously only for a time, otherwise they'd be completely broken if you could just infinitely spam specials. Anyway, Jean Grey can build up her Neuroshocks, which is a great form of damage to have, as currently no one can really deal with them outside massive energy resistance, and then she can turn all of those into massive burst damage on her special too, which again costs less power. Jean's burst is really, really good, and there are many phenomenal videos, very recent ones, showing that Jean Grey can take a hell of a lot. Combine that with an Invisible Woman style force field, and actually she's surprisingly tanky as well, even though she doesn't have the biggest health pool. Having a massive shield to take all the damage for you really does quite a lot. She's also immune to reverse controls, which is very nice, but she doesn't have any other immunities. I almost put her in the 6, given her lack of immunities, but given that most of her damage comes from Neuroshocks that no one's currently immune to, except maybe the Maker, but he's not on this list, I bumped her up to a 7. Let me know what you think about that down below, but for now, 7-8. Joining her in 7-8 is one of the latest cosmic characters, Carolina Dean. Carolina is quite a fun champion because you sort of have to dance around in the arena in order to stand in the sun. You don't need to, but it's nice to, and if you start baiting specials when she's on defense in the sun, you're going to be in for a nasty surprise. But Carolina's damage is very, very good, gets lots of burst, particularly out of her instant incinerate effects, a couple of special 1s, a couple of special 2s. If you can throw them in the sun, lots of power gain, root the opponent, and realistically, Carolina's just a lot of fun to play around with as well. What more can you want from a champion that's fun, decent immunities, decent utility, and great damage? That's what you need in a champion. She can also parry non-contact, which makes her excellent for fighting some particularly nasty tech defenders that we might have already mentioned near at the start of this video. She's a great Zola counter. 7-8. Over in 8-8, we have the next idle champion, Lumitrix. If Isophine is utility, lacking a little bit of damage, Lumitrix has plenty of damage. He has the ability to build to basically guaranteed criticals. He can spend most of the fight completely invisible, or evading all over the place, and overall, if you just need to blast some damage at an opponent, Lumitrix is not a bad option to do so. Tricky to get your hands on, particularly if you're a free-to-play player, as I'm not sure it was possible outside of coming very, very high in Battlegrounds, particularly if you want to get the 7-star version. I imagine the 6-star version you could get. And he has shown, despite not being designed for it, to be a surprisingly tricky defender as well. Guaranteed crits, very solid damage overall, invisible, evade, decent immunities. Lumitrix packs a lot of things that you want from a modern champion. He doesn't exactly fit the skill class, he has no way of dealing with debuffs, but guaranteed crits or high crit champions do seem to be something that's coming sort of into the skill class slowly, so we'll see how that evolves in the future. Consider him a bit like Moleman, that's sat right next to him on the list at the moment. Lots of crits. Moleman has unstoppable and debuffs. Lumitrix has invisible and evade. A very, very powerful champion, coming in at 8-8. At 7-9, we have Nico Minoru, and she is already showing herself to be a very, very powerful Mystic champion. I don't think I'm overdoing it, giving her a 9 out of 10 good, but she solves a lot of problems that you can come across in the against anyone, really. Most of her damage comes through poisons, but if you're using her against a cosmic champion, these get turned into acid burns, and no one's immune to that. She brings back the buff immunity debuff, which is a horrendously powerful piece of utility. You slap one of those bad boys on an opponent, and now they can't gain any buffs at all, unless they can deal with that debuff that most champions can't. She's got a bunch of pre-fights as well to help her go immune to things, yada yada yada. She is a phenomenal Mystic champion. If you manage to get your hands on her, take her up, test her out. She will do you very, very well. It sucks that some of her abilities can only be used once per quest, but sometimes that's all you need. You just need to blast through a champion once, or if you take her into Battlegrounds, use them all, because there is only one fight to deal with. 7-9. Coming in at another champion at 7-8, we have Okoye. Okoye might win the prize for simply applying the most debuffs to opponents, and if she doesn't win it, she's almost certainly on the podium. Simply hitting the opponent with her extended combo has a chance to place bleeds and shocks on every hit. Throw the special 2, get your vicious going, and her damage over time is ridiculous. Once you get her going, she can quite happily sit at about 1 million damage a minute, just in raw damage over time. Most fights will be build to special 2 with your extended combo, special 2 into special 1, and that will melt down pretty much anything you need it to. I've just pulled an Okoye myself out of my latest Titan Crystal, and I will be looking to test her out very, very soon in more detail. She's got access to ensnare as well, so we can reduce the opponent's ability accuracy, and overall a really, really solid skill damage dealer. If the opponent is immune to one of her buffs or debuffs, she does try and apply the other one as well, so she can get around champions that are immune to her debuffs. Very, very, very good damage, and people are finding more and more creative ways to use her in snare. She's even been suggested for champions like Dark Phoenix that she has no right being good against, but simply her extended combo and her massive damage are enough to help deal with that fight. 7-8. Coming in at 7-7, we have Spider-Woman. And perhaps I'm being a little harsh here, but I want to see a little more out of her. Spider-Woman is good. Very good. Don't get me wrong. But to me, it seems like she's one of those champions that's joined the contest, everyone's gone, wow, she's good, and then they've kind of forgotten about. She is very much like Spider-Ham, who is one box to the right, however with some slightly updated utility. She has less damage than Spider-Ham, they both primarily focus around power stings, but more modern utility, with access to severe debuffs and also lots of debilitates, which makes her a very good counter for everyone's favourite Mystic Defender, Enchantress, and she is better than New Falcon, in my opinion. But what else can we get out of her? And right there's not a huge amount. She is a great champion. If you pull her, use her. She's in that 7 good for a reason. There are many champions on that level that she will do very, very well against, or just, those are champions on her level. But I haven't seen anyone use her recently. So, if you are a big Spider-Woman fan, do let me know. I would be very curious to hear what the Spider-Woman fans say in the comments. 7-7. And lastly, for new champions, we have Yelena Belova coming in at 7-5. Yelena is another champion that is designed to be a defender, and she is doing a good job of that. But again, let's see what she can do on offense. Primarily, she focuses around her combo meter, built to 100 combo, which is very easy to do because she's got lots of ways of gaining extra combo. Throw a special, enter your elimination mode, lots of guaranteed crits, burst, so on and so forth. The burst she deals is instant bleed damage, and weirdly, against bleed immune opponents, she deals additional damage. Now, you can get bleed vulnerabilities, but she does kind of cheapen having bleed immunity. There's no point having bleed immunity against an opponent that primarily does bleed damage, because she's just going to inflict different damage to you. So I think that's slightly poor design. Like, I can understand it for defense or for offense to make her damage better, but on defense that potency should be reduced in my opinion, but that's probably not going to get changed. Yelena is fine. Her damage is, I would say, somewhere between pretty good and decent. It's not incredible, but she does what she needs to do. She's a lot like Bullseye. She is a guaranteed crit skill defender with access to, well, Bullseye has evade, she has reversal. Once she gets into elimination mode, if she throws that special one, you just can't hit her, or she's just going to reverse you, which is also pretty rubbish. You just have to beat into a block like Penny, but at least Penny, you can hit her and take the risk. Yelena is just guaranteed. So, again, another defender. She does okay. 7-5. Right, that's all the new champions. Let's talk about some promotions, and I'm hopefully going to move through these a bit faster, but we will see. Bullseye has moved from 7-4 to 7-5. I just ranked him a bit too low before. He's come up slightly in my eyes. If we look at some of the other champions in that 5 box, in my opinion, he fits there very nicely. Instant bleed damage, guaranteed crits, bypasses miss. The damage is okay once you get him going. He's one of those champions that if you invest, if you take him to rank 4, you put on the recoil masteries, and then say, hey look, his damage isn't as bad as you thought it was. There are some champions where you do ridiculous damage when you do that. With Bullseye you do pretty good damage, so it's not quite a fair comparison. However, he is still a solid attacker. I know by some of the top Battlegrounds players, if they can't place him on defense, because that's what he's for, they will take him in and place him on offense instead in a few situations. So 7-4, now 7-5. Captain Britain has been buffed, and she was at 7-3 and is now at 7-4. I think the best way I can summarise this is actually taking a slight pinch from a video by a guy called Grass. Do go watch the entire video. But he says that before she did energy damage and punished debuffs, and after her buff she does energy damage and punishes debuffs. I'll link the video down below. Do give it a watch. It's a really solid one on her buff. Essentially, pre-buff, Captain Britain used to apply debuffs to the opponent, and you could either leave them there for their utility, or take them off for damage, which means you could either spend a long time in a fight, but with good utility, or you could lose all utility and have okay damage. It wasn't amazing, but it was fine. But now we've got a champion that punishes debuff shrugging still, but she has lost the ability to purify the debuffs off the opponent. Now, if they are naturally purified, then she'll replace them with passives, which is a nice update. But since her buff, she doesn't do anything. And in fact, she's basically been buffed into a defender. She needs something more on attack. And on defense, she's got all sorts of neuroshock rubbish. On defense before, she used to slow down the fight a lot because she could, she could reduce your crit damage to basically the same as your regular damage. A bit like Man-Thing there. But a miss, in my opinion. She will not be used on attack more than she was before, which is a real shame. I'm British. So, 7-4. Chi Ilth has moved from 5-7 to 7-8, and effectively this was, I'm not going to say me being wrong, but Chi Ilth has grown by leaps and bounds in my point of view. She is now one of my go-to skill attackers. If I'm looking at a quest and go, I need a skill attacker, Chi is right there at the top of my list. Phenomenal bleed damage, and against bleed immune opponents, she can gain very, very high critical rating, allowing her to crit, 3 to 4 or even 5 times a combo very, very reliably. This lets her cut through a lot of rubbish. Very, very powerful debuff control with her cleanse and the special 2 tranquilize. She's got grit on the special 1. She can bypass miss. She's got vicious and healing on the special 3. Just overall a really solid skill champion. If you get yourself a Chi, take her up if you need a skill champion. Really, really good in my opinion. I should have moved her up sooner, and if I'd updated the tier list sooner, I probably would have done. Moving from 9-7 to 9-8, we have Count Nefaria. I was a big fan of the Count when he came out, and I have been proven right very much by a lot of people. I thought perhaps 9-7 to begin with was a bit high, but no. The Count absolutely deserves that 9-8, a top level science champion. He applies debuffs when you need them, can siphon them back. Very, very good damage, easy access to those debuffs, has got sort of a counterpunch evade thing for easy access to intercepts. Extremely tanky champion. He has got massively high energy and physical resistance, and can steal the opponent's regen, and has regen of his own. Putting a Count Nefaria down is very, very, very difficult, and all round just a phenomenal science champion that is proving on repeat that he is very, very strong. 9-8. Coming in from 7-2 to 8-7 is the freshly buffed Cyclops. Now, I've made a couple of videos on Cyclops. He was slightly bugged on release, or at least the Professor X synergy was. But even now that's been fixed, Cyclops' damage is just awesome. You build to special 3, you drop special 2s, and then a back-to-back special 1s. The damage is incredible. You build to special 3 and get your 20 precisions, drop the special 3, then special 2s and special 1, and the damage is ridiculous. You give him power back boosters, and my god, if you need some mutant damage, Cyclops is a very, very good place to start. He can also bypass miss with his basically permanent True Sense buff, very easy access to crits as well, loads of prowess. They're all passive, so he doesn't bring in buffs, but sometimes that's a lot better. I find his AI sort of manipulation and standing still thing really annoying. And if they'd just given him the double tap block thing that Mantis has, I could see him going from 8-7 to 8-8. I want to see him used a little bit more before he gets that 8-8 rank. But he is effectively bleed immune. He's the first champion that gets adrenaline on lower than the 6-star level. So yes, if you've got a 3-star Cyclops, he will get adrenaline healing. He can take burst damage, he can take bleed, and just heal it all back again. Amazing champion after his buff. And for anyone that hasn't done the Kabam Mike's Revenge Karina's Challenge, where you've got to use 3-star Cyclops to take on the Collector, now's your time to perhaps do it. 8-7. Dust has moved from 9-5 to 9-6. Again, another case of me just undervaluing a champion. Dust has phenomenal immunities, very tanky, not only with a surprisingly high health pool, she also has inbuilt crit resistance for some reason, lots of glancing as well. All of those debuffs, if you leave them on, can be used with the Inequity Mastery as well. So very, very tanky champion. The damage is not as bad as I thought it was. She doesn't have, god tier damage, but it's very respectable and it can do what you need to. Build to the special 3, special 2, special 1 spam, or just special 3 and then special 2, special 1 spam with her Sandstorm. Very, very solid. 9-6. Future Ant-Man, which probably should have been Ant-Man Future at the top of the list, has gone from 6-7 to 8-8. I still hate this guy. I do not like playing him. I find his rotation annoying. And I have made, I think, a video, if I haven't I need to, complaining about him for a good few minutes. However, that doesn't mean he is bad. And I have done my utmost in this list to separate my personal opinions to objectivity. I don't like him, but he is good. And therefore the list should reflect that. Future Ant-Man has, like Bastion, primarily damage that comes from disintegration, and no one's immune to that. His power control is, some people say very good, I'm going to say pretty good, but also unreliable, because the reason I find him so annoying is a lot of things happen when he wants them to, and I want them to happen when I want them to. Future Ant-Man will drain the opponent's power on his special 1. That's great, because it's when I want to, but also when his disintegration timer goes round, and that's when he wants to. You can only really get your big burst damage when the disintegration timer is red, and again, that's when he wants to. I find his AI manipulation weird because you get the AI manipulation after you've done a bunch of intercepts, and I'd kind of like it before when I was trying to do a bunch of intercepts. However, he is very tanky, he has good immunities, his damage is very, very solid, particularly at the higher ranks, and even though I don't like him, I think I've taken him to rank 3. He's solid on defense if you need him, and you can make him work on offense, and some people like him more than others. I don't like him, but I think he deserves the 8-8 slot. Jack-o'-lantern has moved from 7-7 to 9-8, and yes, he's up there next to Bastion. Jack is a champion that I think I underestimated for quite a while, but actually, looking at what he can do, I shouldn't have done. He has good immunities, he can deal with reverse controls, and he can just deal with a lot of mutant rubbish that's coming from the game. A lot of his damage comes from damage over time, so that's very, very good. He's got burst damage as well, and realistically, if you're looking for a decent tech option and you have Jack, definitely go for him. If you have Jack and you have Bastion, I don't envy your decision making. That is going to be a very tough decision. They are both very, very powerful champions for slightly different areas. Jack is probably a simpler champion to play. You just kind of build to special 2, heavy into special 2, maybe special 1 into special 2 if it's a slightly bigger fight. But yeah, Jack is a phenomenal tech champion. I shouldn't have overlooked him for as long as I did. 9-8. Moving from 8-6 to 8-8, we have Luke Cage. A bit like Jack, Luke is a champion that I overlooked for a while, but I have since been introduced to the Church of Luke. His damage is much, much better than I thought it was. His immunities are very good. His awakened ability, Indestructible, allows him just to tank a lot of rubbish. I don't think he can tank special 3s, but you can still do a lot without that one thing. But what gets me primarily about Luke Cage is, against Mystics in particular, you build your debuffs, you go to special 2, and the double concussion he places can shut down a lot of fights. And the ability to turn off a fight is very, very powerful. Are they applying rubbish debuffs? No. Are they going to go indestructible? No. Are they going to go unstoppable? No. The ability to get more than 100% ability accuracy reduction should never be overlooked. The ability to do it reliably should be looked upon. So, Luke, 8-8, a very solid champion now. Going from 8-4 to 7-6, we have the freshly buffed Phoenix. Phoenix now revolves around her Phoenix Force charges that you get simply by hitting the opponent. You can chain heavies and then eventually start applying incinerates, and then after that instant incinerates that actually do a lot of damage. The more Phoenix Force charges you can build up, the more instant incinerates you can deal. After a while, the damage is actually very, very respectable, and like before, she's got her cheat death as well, which really just leads to an all-round solid cosmic character. She's pretty good for Zolo as well, the modern tech defender. Overall, if you've got a Phoenix, give her a shot. See what you think. She is significantly better than she used to be. Yeah, I like her. She's a good champion. I don't have much more to say. She's just solid. 7-6. Prowler has gone from 9-6 to 9-7, with potential for 9-8. We will see. Prowler should not be in 9-6, definitely in the 9 column, but he's simply just better than a lot of the champions in the 6 box, and deserves a slot in the 7 box. Very, very good damage. He's not the easiest champion to just pick up and play, but once you know what you're doing with him, you can get some very, very respectable damage output, and he thrives in the sort of Battlegrounds-esque sort of 400-ish thousand health pool. You sort of 1 special 2, and you will be doing a hell of a lot of damage if you can line things up just right. He's also solid on defense, but we don't count that here. So, line 7 for now. Doing exactly the same and moving from 9-6 to 9-7 is Sentinel. I was a little bit hesitant when he was first buffed to really push him up, but since then he has been showing time and again that he is a very solid tech champion, not quite as good as the sort of the Bastions and the Jacks, but if you've got yourself a Sentinel, he will do you very, very well. I believe he's still a little bit tricky to get your hands on, but if you've got one, do certainly use him. A monster on defense as well, particularly if you've got him awakened. Again, we don't consider that here, but good to know. Simply build your charges, hit the opponent's block, massive shocks on the heavies, ridiculous incinerate damage on the special 2, and overall, very solid. And also, if your health's a bit low, throw a special 3, full heal. Great job. 9-7. Moving from 7-6 to 8-8, we have the Serpent, and this is just another reflection of how long it's been since we've updated this. Initially, Serpent was very much a defender, being underwhelming on offense. However, as time has gone on, Serpent has proven himself on repeat to be a phenomenal attacker as well as a defender. He is very, very good for the Cullsworthy challenge in the Necropolis, and he's done so much in content. Since then, I believe there's been entire paths of endgame content that you can just solo with Serpent by himself. Very easy champion to play, really. You just spam special 1 into their block if that's what you want to do. If they've got a load of armor, you can consider the special 2, and then go for special 3 at the start of the fight to ramp up your charges. Once the charges get going, the Furies get going, the damage gets very, very good, and with the power gain, you can basically just combo special 1, combo special 1, combo special 1. He's just easy. The damage is great. He can bypass miss, evade. I think it's miss and evade. He, does so much, and is just a really solid champion. 8-8. Shathra is moving from 6-7 to 8-8 as well. When Shathra first came out, everyone knew that she was good, but since then she has evolved into becoming great. Shathra can take so much, no one is really immune to her damage in any way, shape or form, and while she has little defensive value, she can take a lot of major cosmic threats on offense. The simple special 1 charge heavy special 2 cycle will do a lot for you as well, and the fact she can steal so much power off the opponent means getting to that special 2 it's very easy and very quick. A very, very good Mystic, not quite in the sort of niche that Mystics do. Her buff control is fine, her power control is fine, but overall very solid at 8-8. Moving from 9-5 to 7-8, so quite the shift, we have Shocker. If you need a large heavy attack, look no further. Shocker is about as big as it gets when it comes to heavy attacks, given that's where all of his damage comes from. Couple of special 1s, special 2, charge heavy, and you will be able to drop with the 7-star, 300k plus heavies. He doesn't crit, so it's quite nice because it removes his RNG. The heavy will be what the heavy will be every single time. You're not sat there with your fingers crossed going, I really hope this crits. It just does the damage it's going to do. If you need more damage, you can build your special 3 and go for a monstrous heavy, or you can go for your special 3 and then just spam pretty good heavies forever. And he can do that very, very easily thanks to the energize you get on your special 3. These heavies will be about the sort of 60 to 80k range, but being able to drop them basically back to back is really cool, and I don't think was quite how the champion was designed to be used, but is still very effective nonetheless. He has defensive value if that's what you're interested in, and Shocker is a staple in many people's Battlegrounds deck. 7-8. Silk. Yes, we're talking about Silk. Has moved from 7-7 to 8-9. Silk is a champion that probably should have gone up sooner. She is probably the most used science, don't she? The best science? Certainly podium. Silk just continues to show her value for what is potentially quite a simple champion. You can heavy chain, you can get lots of damage, special 2 or special 3. The special 3 Silk cycle is very, very powerful, difficult to pull off until you put a power back booster on, and then it's very easy to pull off, unless they have millions upon millions of health. But if you need a science champion to go into a piece of content and you don't know what it is, Silk will do you very, very well. She is used a lot in war, Battlegrounds. I use her in Alliance Quest. She's phenomenal in raids, story, you name it. Silk is pretty damn good. 8-9. Nearly there. Spider-Man OG has gone from 7-5 to 7-6. If you haven't seen the videos on the channel exploring OG Spider-Man, you are missing out, because this guy's damage is bonkers. And his damage is far more than Hulk, particularly in longer fights. So if that doesn't entice you enough, I don't know what will. Definitely go check that out. He's got decent utility, but when you get this guy going, if you want 200k medium attacks and over 1 million special 2s, this is the guy to do it. Spider-Man, his damage is ridiculous, and that needs to be reflected here. He is not the most meta champion. He needs to be awakened. High sig, no, but awakened, yes. Is he a bit annoying? Yes. But if you need damage, 1 special 1, 1 special 2 will do a lot of Battleground stuff. 2 special 1s, 1 special 2, and now things are really flying. If you're using synergies with him, which we don't include in this video either, but if you are using synergies with him, you can have basically permanent levels of Kate Bishop DOT go. You can have 7 or 8k shock ticking just the entire fight just by putting Sable on the team. Not the most modern champion, but if you want some fun and a lot of damage, and a lot of people have been given a 7-star Spidey for free, try him out. You might be surprised. Moving from 8-7 to 9-7, we have Ultron. This is just to reflect his effectively quadruple immunities from his signature ability, plus his regen, plus the ability his bleeds get converted into degens versus mutants. He can take a lot, so that should be reflected in his oftenness. So 8 to 9 in that category, for a total of 9-7. And finally, in the promotion section, because yes, we're only just finishing the promotion section, is Vox, moving from 6-7 to 8-7. I underestimated Vox. I shouldn't have done. Maybe. Vox is a really cool champion because he's one of the very few champions in the game that can apply a damage over time effect, and then it changes as it ticks down. And in Vox's case, it's only ticking up. After every tick, the damage gets more and more and more, and the longer you can keep it going, if you can keep it paused, if you can throw a special attack that pauses it as well, that will just tick up and up and up, and you can get tens of thousands of damage per tick as you get to the end of that cycle. A little stressful to play at times, simply trying to maintain his degens. You gain buffs, you turn them into degens, and then you siphon those degens back into buffs, meaning if you need buffs or debuffs, Vox can do very, very well. I find him a little stressful, but I can't deny how good he is, so that should be reflected here at 7-8. Time for a couple of movements. These are champions that I'm not promoting or demoting, but given we have a 2D tier list, we just need to reflect their positions slightly. Kate Bishop has moved from 8-8 to 7-9, so diagonally 1 square. Kate is still phenomenal, don't get me wrong, nothing has changed on that front, but I can't quite put it in the 8 out of 8 column. She doesn't come with direct immunities, which means 8 out of 10 often doesn't quite seem like the right fit. However, she seems very similar to Nick Fury with massive damage over time and just slightly different abilities to deal with debuffs. Nick Fury can shrug them while Kate can tranquilize them, and so on. They're similar characters, so I put them in the same box. 7, 9. If you have a Kate and a Nick Fury as 6 stars and you don't know which one to rank up, that's really tough. See what you need. However, now that Nick Fury's a 7-star... Oh, I'd love a 7-star Nick Fury. Anyway, Kate Bishop, 7-9. Red Guardian has moved from 8-6 to 7-7. Again, just on the diagonal there. Red Guardian's damage is nuts, particularly now that he is a 7-star that you can take to rank 4. We have a video on 7-star rank 4 Red Guardian. It is insane. The ability to end Battlegrounds fights in like 5 hits just shouldn't be allowed. But again, I couldn't put him in the 8 column. He's buff immune, that's fantastic, and how rare that is something that should be reflected, but he comes with no other immunities, so we've got to drop him down to the 7 column. However, 7-7 is a place I think he will do very well. There is a chance he could go up diagonally again. I could see 6-8 also working for him, but given how much of the Mystic class he completely demolishes, I don't think 6 out of 10 good quite fits for him, but we will see in the future. Sound the sad violin music. Time for some demotions. Don't get me wrong, many of these champions are still very, very good, but we need to reflect how times change within this tier list. First up, we have Apocalypse, who has moved from 9-8 to 8-8, with the potential to slide down even further. Apocalypse is still a very, very good champion, and if you have your hands on a 7-star one, great, you've got a great champion, and his Horseman of Apocalypse ability to apply to other mutants is also really, really valuable. But Apocalypse just isn't quite the champion he once was, and there are other mutant champions I would rather have instead. He was effectively replaced by Onslaught, and that's not a bad thing, because Onslaught is a ridiculously good champion. To be replaced by arguably the best mutant champion in the game is not, that's not bad. That's not bad going. Losing in a race to Usain Bolt, but coming in a close second is still pretty impressive. Apocalypse is very strong. He's got great debuffs, he's got great burst damage, but the content has just evolved a little bit beyond what he is good for. So for now, 8-8. The big one. Hercules. The only champion to have ever made it into the 10-10 box, but has now come down to 10-9. Hercules is still a beast. Don't get me wrong. If you get him awakened, the amount of content Hercules will just carry you through with your eyes closed is mind-boggling. And I'm sure many, if you're an endgame player watching this, you will say Hercules has fallen off further than that, he should be demoted further. And I would agree with you. Once you get to sort of mid-Act 8, end of Act 9, you're doing things like Necropolis, Hercules is not the champion he once was. However, I probably am the person that is the latest into the game that sees the most up-and-coming players coming through. And the number of players I have seen saying things like, I was struggling, then I pulled Hercules, or I have Hercules and I have just blasted through all of this. It's ridiculous. Hercules will still carry you through an insane amount of content. He's easy to play. He has fantastic, AI manipulation. He's got buffs. He can not quite tank... Oh, he can tank special 3s, actually. He has the ability to not die, and not die for quite a while. His damage is great. He's got burst damage buffs, and he can bypass miss. And the reason Hercules gets into that 10 often column... So if you're in... So the sort of 7 or 8 often column. That means you are very good at doing what you were designed to do, but some things might get in your way. If you're in the 9 column, that means you can do basically everything. If you're in the 10 column, that means you can basically do things you weren't even designed to consider. Think about this. Hercules has AI manipulation, making it very easy for him to intercept the opponent, and he has the ability to bypass miss. That makes Hercules not the best, but a viable Enchantress counter. He's not brilliant for it, but he has ways around a kit of a champion that came out years after him that is a lethal defensive option, and he's not bad for. Hercules is a disgustingly good champion, but has fallen off slightly. Hence, he is now 10-9. I wouldn't use him for Enchantress, by the way, but he could do it. Moving from 8-8 to 8-7 is Omega Red. Omega Red, still phenomenal, but as he always did, he likes you to run recoils, but doesn't need it. And he really needs that high sig. He really needs that high sig, preferably max, for making more damage the higher his sig level is. If you have invested into a rank 4 sig 200 Omega Red, I have no doubt he is a monster. But the game doesn't quite call for Omega Red at the moment. Still, an 8-7 is a fantastic place to be, and if you promote a champion into 8-7, you'd say they're a great champion. So just because we've demoted a champion to 8-7, they're still phenomenal. Following a similar vein, from 8-8 to 7-8, we have Rintrah. I love Rintrah, but again, I have to make sure this list doesn't reflect my biases too much. Great burst damage, hugely tanky. Go see the Rintrah video on his tankiness. It's just funny. You know, loads of debuffs, great on defense if you're considering that. And again, 7-8 is still a great place to be. He lacks a little bit in the immunities department, hence I've got to move him down to 7-8. She-Hulk has moved from 9-7 to 8-6. Still a very, very solid champion, but a little bit outdated now, and she's effectively been replaced by Deathless She-Hulk. What old She-Hulk can do, Deathless She-Hulk can do, and to be honest, a bit better. So that has to be reflected here. Don't get me wrong, She-Hulk's damage is still nuts when you get it going. You bring in Mr. Fantastic for the Power Sting synergy as well, and you've got huge Power Stings that come out of her. Her Furies, once you get them going, are very, very powerful. Her AI manipulation for special throwing, also great. But we have to reflect the times. 8-6. From 8-8 to 7-7, we have Sunspot. Again, I like Sunspot, but I also haven't played him, I don't think, once since I did this previous tier list. And again, that sort of thing has to be considered. Amazing, huge special 2s. Very fun way to ramp up as well by charging your heavy, siphoning your incinerates back, so you don't actually have to hit the opponent that much. You can just gain loads of power from siphoning off the incinerates. But we have to reflect things with the time. If you pull a Sunspot, excellent, well done. You have now got a very fun and very big damage special 2 mutant. But I think 7-7 is the right place for him for now. Falling quite away from 8-8 to 6-6, we have Valkyrie. Valkyrie is a weird champion. She is very powerful, but no one plays her. And I can't quite work out why, but I don't know. Valkyrie's weird. Let me know in the comments. Does anyone here who got this far into the video play Valkyrie at all? She hits the opponent's block and builds power and deals lots of damage into the block. And that allows her to bypass so much rubbish. If you think of all the times you could solve a problem by not hitting the opponent, Valkyrie can get around a lot of things. That's why Quake is so powerful. Well, one of the reasons. There's multiple reasons why Quake is busted. But the more I thought about it, Valkyrie relies on hitting the opponent's block, and there are champions now that start to punish that. But outside of that, she has very little utility. The burst damage, once she gets it, is also bleed damage, which is being more and more resisted, and I haven't seen anyone play Valkyrie in quite some time, so as I've said with many of these champions, we have to reflect how the game has evolved. And whilst 6-6 might be a little bit harsh, I'll see for next time, I think it's where she's going to stay, at least for now. 6-6. And finally, we are only 54-ish minutes into this video. My voice is going, but finally, from 9-8 to 2-9, we have Void. Void was a champion that I always struggled to place on the tier list, because he is in general a very, very solid attacker, more so than you might realise. Yes, he does need that high sig, the more the merrier, but once Void gets going, get your Fear of the Void up, you cancel all regeneration, all power gain, a lot of evade, and you drop the opponent's critical rating to very, very little, meaning they're struggling to hit you. on one of the largest health pools in the entire game. Combine that with all his passive unavoidable damage and the massive attack boost you get from Fear of the Void, and you have a really, really strong champion. However, Void has always thrived in matchups where the opponent has lots of regeneration, and to a certain extent in matchups where the opponent has a lot of power gain as well. Because he is still, in my opinion, despite being, isn't Void 9 years old at this point? He's around there. The most reliable regeneration reversal champion in the entire game. He is not the fastest. He's not necessarily even the easiest. Although spamming special 1 is pretty easy. And yes, his debuffs come in a random order. But once you get it going, it is there and it is not going anywhere. And that makes him extraordinarily powerful. All it would take to make Void sort of properly meta again is to replace his fatigue debuff with, say, physical vulnerability, so you can hit them harder, and his anti-evade buff with decelerate, such that it counters evade unstoppable, and Void would be back in the meta, in my opinion. Maybe speed up his, debuff application a little bit, whatever. He doesn't need it. The reason he is moving to the left side of the tier list is because he is now, in my opinion, gone from a generalist to a specialist. He would still fit very comfortably in the 8-8 box, if that's where you chose to put him, but there are enough places in the game where if you need a heal reverser, you bring Void, and therefore he has moved to the specialist side of the tree. So, 2 out of 10 often, but in that situation, he is 9 out of 10 good. Really, really solid champion. If they gave him a pretty fight, which lets you choose the order that his debuffs applied, he'd be a 10. Because then you could just choose 2 Petrifies right off the bat, and he'd be so good. But for now, 2-9. So, there we have it, the July 2025 update to the tier list. I need to do these videos more often, otherwise every single one of them is going to be, nearly an hour long. I need to go eat some food, I'm going out soon. Anyway, do let me know down in the comments what you think, but please do keep it civil. This is my opinion, but also I am not perfect. There are, if you ask me on a different day, many champions on this list that you could move. And I would probably agree with you. So, give me your opinions down below. But again, be nice to each other. It's a game after all. People are allowed to enjoy what they enjoy. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments section as well. And consider joining the Discord server where you can rant at me in person. Linked in the description. A great place to get specific advice, make suggestions for future video topics, and while I'm awake, I do my best to be there as much as possible. Thank you. And I will see you next time.